what happens when a king leaves his throne, or what happens when a man is dethroned. He, for whatever reason, is removed from his throne. Being the man of the house, what happens? So in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about being a king. Every king has a kingdom. So before a king loses the authority, the power of that throne, okay, before he gets removed from it, this is generally what happens. He stops leading. He stops inspiring. He stops being that father. He stops fathering his children. He stops being a husband, okay? Ends up, he's with a partner. He's maybe with and she may even feel like a flatmate, a roommate. And what happens is he actually begins to delegate responsibility. The responsibilities of being the king in the kingdom, he will start to farm it out, start to delegate. And generally what will happen, before he's dethroned, he'll just be a man, he just lives a life of passivity, does not stand for anything. And when it comes to, do you know a man who does that? Do you know a king who does that? Maybe it's you, maybe you know someone. You just neglect taking on responsibility, because that's what kings do. That's what leaders do. They take on responsibilities. And I'm not talking about a king being loud and puffing his chest out and bullying, dominating. I'm not talking about that. That's not a king. That's an undeveloped man, okay? But what a king does, he actually creates order. He creates order with his children, okay? You know, it's said you get 18 summers with your children. Whereas I almost feel like I've cheated that because I've shifted from Europe, from summer there to summer here in Australia. It's almost I've got 2 in 1 year. But you get what I'm saying. You only get so many summers, okay? So a king creates opportunities for his family. And a king, he creates order with his energy. A king, it's always about order. There's a hierarchy that happens, whether you like it or not. Okay, somebody's got to lead, okay? But when that man takes his rightful place, he creates time. He creates energy. He creates a focus. What happens is, when he actually steps up, he creates a standards. There's a level of excellence. There's a level of, hang on, we're operating as a home, as a family, we're operating at this level. We're not getting sucked into sarcasm, to negative thinking, to being critical. He has standards, which everybody, so I always say, with all the men that I've coached over the years, I always say, you don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. Like attracts. If you're operating at that level, that's what you'll attract. If you're operating at that level, that's what you'll attract. And when a king understands his value, when a king actually understands his values, that's how he's able to attract. He's attracting that anyway, okay? So you got to choose as a king. When a king understands who he is and what he's about, his home will actually represent what's going on the inside. It will represent the culture, what's going on in the home. And I had one of the nicest compliments I've had, okay, in a very long time. Yeah, recently flown back moved my family back from Europe back to Australia, and a couple of my daughters come back about 6 weeks early, you know, stay with their grandparents, etc. I had things to do, 17 and 20, and our family home, we've moved back into it, but my daughters were able to get in a week early. We had it rented out, tenants are out, girls that come back in early and they're staying in the house, okay? And we moved back in, and my 17-year-old girl, and you fathers know, teenage girls are not the easiest to inspire, to rule with love and discipline, etc. I think you get what I'm saying. You fathers will know what I'm talking about. And my 17-year-old girl goes, wow, Dad, it's just not the same without you. I'm so glad you're back. You know, she's in the home, she's sleeping here, and it just doesn't feel the same. And for me, that's just an amazing compliment. I said, love, you can't say that and not give your dad a hug. So gentlemen, what I'm saying is, when the king's in the home, everything's better. Everything should be better. If you're walking in the door and things aren't better, you're making things worse, you need to keep listening to this one. And of course, when it comes to order, as I briefly said, the inner world creates the outer world. So as a king, if you don't have order on the inside, here and in your heart, man, you're going to cause problems. Remember, it creates the outside. So if you're not creating order, okay, you're not going to be able to impact your children in a positive way. You're not going to be able to impact your community, your neighbours' children, okay, in a positive way. You're not going to be able to impact your wife in a positive way. She wants to be led. She wants to be inspired. So gentlemen, if you're not coming from a place of creating something new, something fresh for the future, man, you're going to end up stagnant and stuck and end up delegating the responsibility that you've been given. And particularly, I think when it comes to if you're not creating order for your customers, for your clients. And what I mean by that is by the people that you're put here to actually serve. Maybe it's your church. Maybe it's another community organisation. When you don't have order, you're not going to be able, they will not get your best. You will not be able to serve them at the highest level. You see, a king, he doesn't do everything. I know my shortcomings, and I can't do everything. But do you know what a king does and what I do? I actually decide, I make decisions, I decide what actually matters. What actually matters to my family, to level up in my family, I need to decide what matters. And so when it comes to my faith, I need to decide what matters. When it comes to my business, I need to make decisions and be very clear on what actually matters. Gentlemen, a king is good at making decisions. So what a king doesn't do, he doesn't make decisions out of a place of exhaustion. And that's what's happening with a lot of people, with a lot of men these days. They're making big decisions from a place of exhaustion. Please do not do that. So in saying that, I'm always, this masculine journey is about action, right direction, okay? So maybe just pause for a second and just think about what's one thing in my standards I can level up in. Maybe you need to just think about what's the most important thing here. What's one standard I can actually level up in? And the second thing I would love you to think about is actually what is a boundary I need to actually be a little bit more firmer in? What's a boundary I maybe need to reset? Maybe it's with relationships, maybe it's with your language, maybe it's with your thinking. What is a boundary you need to reinstall? There's two things there that will actually start to impact the people around you by you being impacted first. And I would say the third thing, if I can give you another thing, the third would be is to actually incorporate, just maybe even think about what are some non-negotiables. What are some non-negotiables that you can talk to your family about? You can talk your kingdom. Maybe it's in your business, in your company. What's something that's maybe got off track? Just 1% a day over time. If you're just off 1%, 1 degree, it will just get way off over the course of a year, over the course of a month. So what's something that you actually need to reinstall when it comes to a non-negotiable? This is who we are, this is what we do, we're not negotiating off it. You know, when you can get in line like that, that's leadership. That's actual leadership from a kingdom point of view. Because the definition, in short, the definition of being a king is actually, because when you understand these three things I've talked about, it actually governs your behaviour. It governs the way you think. It governs, which in essence, it's about influence. Being a king in a kingdom is about it being an influential leader, an influential man, so other people flourish. Yeah, I'll say it again. So that being a king and making these sacrifices are actually for others. That's what being a king in the kingdom is, actually influencing others. Hey, listen, in closing, all right? In closing, I've got some more emails coming through. If you're not on the email list, please get on it. There's things in the Bible that actually speak to men and tell them how to live. We're designed to protect, to provide, to be the king, to be the priest and be the prophet, to cast vision. So over the next little while, I'm going to explain, the next coming weeks, I'm going to explain about that. And maybe even in January, I'm going to do some webinars about how to actually become a better man in a masculine way. There's a blueprint that I'm going to actually show you guys so that you can implement it straight away. And of course, it's always about action. So I'll let you know what we're going to be doing in the coming 12 months. That's if it's for you, of course. Some men are happy to just operate at average their whole life. Whereas if that's you, this ain't for you then. But hey, listen, all the best for Christmas. Love your family. Think about what's important. Remember the reason for the season. Amen. Over and out.